Let's review the 98-year history of the Yuan Dynasty in one go. The Yuan Dynasty was the first unified dynasty in Chinese history, established by a minority group. It was also the dynasty with the largest territory in Chinese history. At its peak, the Yuan Dynasty's territory spanned about 13.72 million square kilometers. If you include its vassal state Korea, the total area reached approximately 33 million square kilometers. That is roughly the size of Africa, or about twice the size of Russia. Yet, such a powerful nation collapsed dramatically in just a century. Let's begin with the origins of the Yuan Dynasty, around 162 AD. On the distant Mongolian plains, a baby boy was born with a blood clot in his right hand. He would become the legendary figure who terrified the Eurasian continent. This was Genghis Khan. At this point, he had not yet earned the title of Genghis Khan. He was still called Temujin. At the age of 18, Temujin's wife was abducted by the Merkits. This hatred for his wife's abduction completely awakened Temujin's potential. In his fury, Temujin launched a war. Temujin won a decisive victory. Not only did he reclaim his wife, but his fame spread far and wide. He gained countless followers. With everyone's recommendation, Temujin became the Khan of his tribe in 182 AD. As the saying goes, those who don't aspire to be the CEO are not good leaders of their tribe. At this point, Temujin had a new goal: to conquer all of Mongolia. But Temujin wasn't the only one eyeing the Mongolian plains. His sworn brother Jamuka was also a contender. Jamuka was also a formidable hero. He had once helped Temujin reclaim his wife. But in this world, there are no eternal friends, only eternal interests. Facing a brother threatening his power, Jamuka had no choice but to unite 13 Mongol tribes. They launched the Battle of the 13 Wings, in which Temujin suffered the only defeat of his life. However, this defeat turned out to be a blessing for Temujin. After his victory, Jamuka, in a brutal celebration, set up over 70 cauldrons and boiled the captured soldiers alive. Seeing Jamuka's cruelty, the Mongol tribes turned their backs on him and pledged allegiance to Temujin. Temujin's power gradually grew stronger. In 1206 AD, Temujin unified the Mongolian plateau. He earned the prestigious title of Genghis Khan, meaning great ruler like the ocean, and established the Great Mongol State. His family came to be known as the Golden Family in later generations. After unifying Mongolia, Genghis Khan did not slow down his conquests. In his own words, "Wherever grass grows, it shall be my land for pasturing horses." In 1211 AD, a great war broke out between Mongolia and the Jin dynasty. Genghis Khan personally led 100,000 troops and defeated the 450,000-strong Jin army. This is known as the Battle of Yehuling. This battle completely wiped out Jin's elite forces. From then on, they could no longer resist the Mongols' advances. In 1218 AD, Genghis Khan ordered Jibi to lead 20,000 cavalry to destroy the western Liao. A year later, due to an incident with the Khwarezmian Empire, where Mongolian merchants and envoys were killed, Genghis Khan led 200,000 troops westward to launch an expedition. The Mongol army advanced as far as the Volga River in Eastern Europe, causing the entire Eurasian continent to tremble in fear. However, the glorious days were short-lived. The legendary conqueror died in 1227 AD, during an expedition against the Western Xia at the age of 66. After Genghis Khan's death, his third son, Ögedei, inherited the throne according to his will. However, Mongol tradition required the election of the new Great Khan through a Kurultai, a council of Mongol nobles. Thus, before the Kurultai was held, Genghis Khan's youngest son, Tolui, served as regent. Tolui is the sworn brother of Guojing in the novel The Legend of the Condor Heroes. According to Mongol tradition, the youngest son, born of the primary wife, would become the guardian of the family. This is why Tolui took on the role of regent. In 1229 AD, at the Kurultai, many Mongol nobles advocated for Tolui to inherit the throne. However, many others insisted on following Genghis Khan's will and electing Ögedei as the Great Khan. After 40 days of heated debate, Ögedei finally secured the support of the majority. He inherited the title of Great Khan. However, this set the stage for Tolui's eventual death. In 1232 AD, Tolui and Ögedei dealt a devastating blow to the Yuan Dynasty together. But during their return journey, Ögedei suddenly fell gravely ill. According to the shamans of the time, only a close relative could sacrifice themselves to save him. Tolui volunteered to die in his brother's place and drank the potion prepared by the shamans. A few days later, Ögedei miraculously recovered. But Tolui soon fell ill and died. Ögedei could never have imagined that 19 years later, Tolui's eldest son, Manni, would successfully wrest the throne from him. In 1234 AD, under the combined forces of the Mongols and the Southern Song dynasty, the Yuan Dynasty was destroyed. Afterward, the Mongols and the Southern Song engaged in a grueling 40-year-long tug-of-war. In 1235 AD, Ögedei sent Beta to lead an army of 150,000 men on Mongolia's second Western expedition. Known as the Western Expedition of the Eldest Sons, during this campaign, the Mongols conquered the Kipchaks, Russia, Hungary, Poland, and other nations. In 1241 AD, Ögedei, addicted to alcohol, suffered a stroke. He soon died in his palace. He was 56 years old. Looking back at Ögedei's life, he could be described as half angel, half devil. He was deeply devoted to and relied heavily on Yalu Chukai, a scholar well-versed in Confucianism. Yalu further established Mongolia's legal and political systems. This laid the foundation for the establishment of the Yuan Dynasty. After Ögedei's death, the throne was passed to his eldest son, Gaik. However, Gamik had a short life. He reigned for less than 2 years before dying of illness. Later, the throne passed to Tolui's eldest son, Mengi. Mengi is one of the few emperors in history who died in battle. In 1252 AD, Mengi sent Kublai Khan south to attack the Dali kingdom. After 2 years of fighting, the Dali kingdom was finally incorporated into the Mongol Empire. The following year, Mengi ordered Hulagu to launch the Third Western Expedition. In 1258, Hulag's Mongol cavalry captured Baghdad and destroyed the Abbasid Caliphate of the Arab Empire. After that, he led his army to occupy the Ayyubid dynasty in Syria. In 1258 AD, Mengi divided his army into 3 and launched a major attack on the Southern Song dynasty. He personally led the army into Sichuan. However, he suffered a crushing defeat at Diao Fortress in Chongqing. Mengi was mortally wounded by the world-leading cannons of the Southern Song. Mengi's fate echoed General Patton's famous quote, "The best end for a soldier is to be killed by the last bullet in the final battle. After Menghi's sudden death, a successor had not yet been firmly established. This led to internal strife within the Mongol factions. Menghi's brothers, Kublai and Arik Bey fought a 5-year civil war for the throne. The great Mongol Empire split into the Yuan Dynasty, established by Kublai, and the 4 Khanates created by other Mongol nobles. In 1264 AD, Kublai defeated Arik Bey and became the great Khan of the Mongols. In 1271 AD, Kublai changed the name of the empire, following the principle of the greatness of heaven's mandate, officially changing the empire's name from the Great Mongol State to the Great Yuan. Kublai became the first emperor of the Yuan Dynasty, known as Yuan Shizu. Thus, the Yuan Dynasty was officially established. Later, Kublai moved the capital to Beijing. In the Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber, the agreement between Zhao Min and Jiang Wuji refers to the city of Beijing. In 1276 AD, the Southern Song dynasty surrendered. 3 years later, the last of the Southern Song forces were annihilated in the Battle of Yamen. With this, the Yuan dynasty achieved the first full unification of China since the Tang dynasty. After the unification, Kublai, to better manage this ethnically and culturally diverse nation, modified some of the old Mongolian practices and began implementing Chinese laws. For example, he established the Jiangsu Sheng and the Privy Council as central government agencies, with the censorate as the core of the Han-style bureaucracy. Locally, he gradually introduced the provincial system. The provinces were branches of the central government sent to manage the regions. These provincial branches are familiar to us even today. For instance, modern-day provinces like Shanxi, Gansu, and Sichuan. Moreover, Kublai Khan emphasized agricultural development, established schools, and appointed many Han Chinese officials. One example is Zhao Mengfu, one of the 4 great masters of Chinese calligraphy, who was recruited into government service by Kublai Khan. However, at this time, the Yuan dynasty, in order to solidify Mongol dominance, divided the population into 4 classes: Mongols at the top, followed by Simu people, Han Chinese, and Southern Chinese at the bottom. In addition, there were various unequal policies and regulations. For example, Han Chinese were forbidden from hunting, learning martial arts, or owning weapons. And most absurd of all, they were banned from walking at night. Afterward, Kublai resumed his pattern of military campaigns. He launched invasions against Japan, Annam, Vietnam, Burma, and Java. However, luck no longer favored him. His foreign campaigns ended in repeated failures. What was particularly hard for him to accept was that both his attempts to invade Japan ended in failure. The first attempt was in 1274, known as the Battle of Bonai. The second was in 1284, called the Battle of Khan. The failure of both invasions was due to typhoons, which inflicted heavy losses on his forces. Japan's successful defense against the Yuan invasions, aided by the typhoons, gave rise to the legend of the Divine Wind, kamikaze. The kamikaze units that emerged during World War II's Pacific conflict derived their name from this legend. However, these successive military defeats drained the Yuan dynasty's finances. At this time, Kublai decided to appoint ministers skilled in raising funds to rebuild the treasury. But this decision led to widespread corruption and heavy taxation by local officials. This only exacerbated social tensions. By this time, Kublai had entered his twilight years. His poor decisions, compounded by physical ailments, made him grow weary of state affairs, leading him to retreat into seclusion. In 1294 AD, Kublai Khan passed away. He was 80 years old, since his crown prince, Zhenjin, died prematurely. The throne was passed to Zhenjin's son, Timur. He became Emperor Chengzong of Yuan. During Chengzong's reign, he halted foreign conquests and focused on internal reforms, reducing taxes and improving military governance. This temporarily alleviated social tensions. Due to his expertise in defending cities, he was also known as the Guardian Emperor. In 1302 AD, Emperor Chengzong made a firm decision to root out corrupt officials. He dismissed 18,473 corrupt officials. He overturned 5,176 wrongful convictions. Although the Yuan dynasty seemed to be improving and becoming more just, Emperor Chengzong lavishly rewarded his royal relatives without restraint, which ultimately left the Yuan treasury empty in his later years. In 1307 AD, Emperor Chengzong died after 13 years on the throne, at the age of 42. Since Emperor Chengzong had no sons, a succession crisis ensued, leading to rebellion. Ultimately, Kublai Khan's great-grandson, Kayishin, ascended the throne and became Emperor Wuzong of Yuan. After taking power, Emperor Wuzong resorted to a simple but extreme solution to the Yuan dynasty's financial crisis: printing large amounts of paper currency. It's worth noting that the Yuan dynasty was the first in Chinese history to fully rely on paper currency for its economy. The excessive printing of paper currency caused rampant inflation, leaving the common people to suffer greatly. This issue persisted until the end of the Yuan dynasty. Moreover, Emperor Wuzong had a short life, passing away after only 4 years on the throne. In 1311 AD, after Wuzong's death, the throne passed to his brother Ayurbarwada, who became Emperor Renzong of Yuan. He is known as Emperor Renzong of Yuan. Since Emperor Wuzong ascended the throne with the support of his brother, they made an agreement for shared succession between the brothers. This can be understood as alternating dynasties between the two branches of the family. Traditionally, emperors named Renzong are regarded as good rulers. During his reign, Emperor Renzong reformed the government, implemented Confucian governance policies, and reinstated the imperial examination system. This is known as the Yanyu Imperial Examination Restoration. However, no one is perfect. In 1316 AD, Emperor Renzong appointed his son Shidabala as crown prince. This broke the agreement for shared succession with Wuzong, causing strong dissatisfaction among the Mongols. It gave many ambitious individuals a legitimate reason to challenge the throne. This eventually led to a 17-year-long power struggle over the Yuan throne. During these 17 years, the Yuan dynasty went through 6 emperors in rapid succession. 2 were assassinated, and 1 was poisoned. The rest all had short lives. Looking at the history of imperial succession across dynasties, most saw the throne pass down a single line of succession. But only in the Yuan dynasty did the succession resemble a game of snake. In 1333 AD, the Yuan dynasty welcomed its last emperor, Yuan Shengdi, also known as Togan Timur. He was the longest reigning emperor of the Yuan dynasty. He remained in power for an extended period of 35 years. He was also known as the craftsman emperor. In terms of carpentry skills, even Zhu Yujin, the Ming emperor, may not have matched him. During his reign, Yuan Shengdi was initially diligent in managing state affairs. He tried to save the declining Yuan dynasty. He appointed ministers like Toktoa and implemented a series of reforms. These reforms became known as the Jijing reforms. However, just as the Yuan dynasty began to improve, the Yellow River broke its banks at a critical moment. At this time, the Yuan government forcibly recruited 150,000 peasants to perform labor. But the most tragic part was that local officials embezzled the funds allocated by the court, and combined with continuous natural disasters, this became the final straw that broke the peasants' backs. As a result, uprisings broke out all over the country. In 1368 AD, the Ming army captured Dadu, modern-day Beijing. Yuan Shengbi fled the city and retreated to the northern steppes. There, he established the Northern Yuan. Thus, the Yuan dynasty officially came to an end. Finally, let's discuss an interesting fact. It is said that the term Sha Dao, a fool, first appeared in the plays of Yuan dynasty playwright Ma Jiuan. Ma Jiuan is famous for writing the line, "The setting sun beyond the horizon, a sorrowful traveler far away from home." In his play, Midnight Thunder, there's a line that says, "Sha Dao, let go, I dare to fight back." Haha, did your collection of strange knowledge just grow?